In this video of PartNester 4, we're going to get a little bit deeper into the shapes that make up a part, how to modify a shape within the part, how to add new rectangles, new features to any one part. As we've learned from the previous videos, when you click on the part, we have our parts list on the info tab that is highlighting and selecting the part name that we have clicked on. So if we click on the part here, we can see that that is a right side. Clicking the letter P or clicking on the words itself is going to select the part and all features and shapes of that part. So we can see when we select the right side, we get the dados and the shelf holes selected. That is all the parts within that part itself, or all the shapes within that part. To add a new shape or a new feature to that part, we could add circles or lines or rectangles. I'm going to draw in a rectangle. As long as on the mouse up, that mouse up is within the part, that rectangle is now going to be associated to the part that we drew it on. So that is this right side. So when we select the right side, we can see that that rectangle is selected and it is part of the part right side. So if we clicked on the rectangle to draw and had the mouse up be off of the part, it now essentially becomes a part of its own and is not associated with this right side. And we click on that part and we see it is a perimeter cut, meaning that that is really a part of its own. And when we nest, it will get nested as if it was a newly drawn part. More on that in another video. So I'm going to undo that. I just wanted to show the association and verifying that the parts that you're drawing and adding to a particular part need to be drawn on the part, especially when the mouse is up. The mouse needs to be over top of the part itself. Once that part is added, or that shape is added to the part, we could make modifications to it and change the size. So selecting the rectangle, I could come over and give it a depth. This is how deep do we want this to cut. If I want this to go all the way through, I would enter in 0.75 and also specify a size of this rectangle. So I'll enter in 6 by 1.5. Once we've made those modifications, we could go ahead and hit change, and that rectangle gets changed to the size that we've specified. To give it an exact location, if I want that rectangle to sit up here towards the front and I want it to be 1 inch in off of the front and maybe a half an inch in the X, I'm going to first use the move selection tool. So we first have to have the object that we want to move. It has to be selected. Otherwise, when we click, it's going to tell us that we have to have a selection first. So selecting that rectangle, then using move, that object turns green. I'm going to use the snap to the lower right of that part to snap it to the lower right of the part itself. I'm going to escape out of move command by typing the escape key. We go back into standard selection. That is selected. I can now move the X a minus 0.5, which is going to move it to the left. Negative is to the left, positive is to the right. And I'm going to move the Y up 1 inch. And once that is set, go ahead and hit change. And that now gets its new location. We could change the size further. Instead of 1.5, I just want it to be 1 inch to get it off of that shelf hole. I'm going to first change our move X and Y back to 0 because I do not want X and Y to move. I only want to change the size in the Y, clicking change. That gives us a new location and a new size for that rectangle. If we do not want any shapes or a multiple shape selection, holding the Shift key as we select our shapes and the objects, if we do not want those 4 holes, have those selected, hitting delete on the keyboard will now delete those holes. Drawing a circle works exactly the same way. We could draw out a circle, and as long as when I mouse up, that mouse up is within the shape of the circle or within the part, it is going to be associated to that part. So now changing the size of that circle works exactly the same way. I am going to make sure that I have the X and Y both set to be the same size and giving it a depth of 0.75. Clicking change changes the size of our circle. I could come back up into the move selection mode, snapping from the center to where I want that to be. I can now then use move an X and Y to move it to a more specific location off of the corner that it is. So I can move it to the left a -3 inches and then a -4 inches in the Y. Clicking change now gives us a hole or a circle that is -3 in the X and -4 in the Y, and we could double check that by using the distance button, snapping it from the center. And if I snap it to the top, we can see the total distance is 5 inches, but the delta X is 3 and the dy is 4, and that is exactly what we've specified it to be in the shape info change tab. We have the option also to draw a polyline. Selecting the polyline, clicking anywhere we want to have the start and end to be, and I'm going to snap it to the beginning to create a closed shape, right-clicking to exit and out of that shape. Clicking on the polyline in the poly shape that we just created, we can change and scale that to the sizes. I'm going to only change the depth, and I'm going to change that to the depth of 0.5, and then clicking change is only changing the depth of that shape 2.5, and we can see the difference when we click on the circle. That's at 7.5. Our polyline is at 0.5. I could square and make the parallel lines or square this up to make them horizontal or vertical by hovering over top of the line segment. If I want that to be vertical, I'm going to type the letter V to make both of those vertical lines, and the same with the horizontal. If I wanted this shape to be horizontal, typing the letter H will create a horizontal line segment. So essentially it is the same as creating a rectangle, but we could also use that polyline to create different type of shapes within the part itself. So again, that rectangle in that polyline that we just drew, we drew it all with the mouse up being done over top of the part, associates it to the part itself.